Everyone who starts trading thinks they're going to become a millionaire. So let's play along with that little game, shall we? And look at some data. How quickly might it happen? These are the actual distribution returns from a hedge fund. Before I tell you which one, it's an old slide that I used to use to train people up in my own firm. And as you can see, you could work it out for yourself. Now, let's assume you're not going to be the world's greatest hedge fund manager by just trading on your own account. Okay, it's a fair assumption, especially when I tell you whose hedge fund this is in just a second. And that's the number of months. And you can see the distribution of monthly returns, okay? Percentage gains and percentage losses. And there's a lot of months where you make between 0 to 1%, a lot of months where you make 1 to 2%, a lot of months where you make 2 to 3%. And there's very few months where, of course, you make 10 to 20%. Now, there's some of you on social media who will message back in the comment section telling me how you consistently make 5% every month from your prison cell, Mr. Madoff, I would say. But for the rest of us in the real world and not deluded, that's probably a pretty good return distribution, I'm afraid. Notice how there are no big losses. And like I said, sadly, relatively few big wins. Now, again, some of you in the crypto world will turn around and say to me how you've made gazillions, and I'm sure you have. There's also people who've won the lottery. They exist too. Doesn't mean I'll play it. So going back to my original point, let's just stick to the fact that you do as good as this hedge fund manager. And you can see growth of $1,000 investment, how long it took to get to 15,000. Okay, from 1991 to 2013. Like I said, I took an old slide from when we used to dug it up from when we used to train people within my fund. What does that tell you? Well, let me tell you some more bad news for those thinking they're going to make millions in a week. And the bad news is this. But there is some good news, by the way. The bad news is this. That's from Hedge Fund Manager of the Year. It's actually from Bill Lipschutz, who mentored me. I interviewed him for my book, The Mind of a Trader. He was global head of foreign exchange trading at Salomon Brothers, then set up his own hedge fund, Hather Sage, and that's where that's from. And he was hedge fund manager of the year just a few years ago. So you could argue probably one of the best in the world. And you're going to outdo that? Fair enough. Good luck. Listen, there's a thing on social media called Delulu, where you're a bit delusional, and that's a good way to get through life. Nothing wrong with it. So let's now move on to some of the good news before I've totally destroyed your spirit. The good news is Bill also said, as a private client, he was able, for trading on his own account, as opposed to through his hedge fund, he could take a bit more risk. So he could risk losing, say, 5% on any single trade. And that meant he expected to make, and wait for it, and I interviewed him, and I couldn't believe it when he said this number, he'd expect to make about 100% return in a year. And you might say, well, he's probably just lying to you. Well, no, because I was interviewing for a book, which was then published by the Financial Times. And he was global head of foreign exchange trading at Salomon. So it'd be a pretty stupid thing to do to lie in an FT book when you've got such an important job. So that's the good news. As a private investor, there are those who, with a bit of expertise and experience, should be able to get to, well, let's say Bill's standard, or discounted a bit. Maybe you only make 50% in a year. So some good and bad news. Take from it what you will. Those of you who are dispirited, give up now. Those of you who are delulu and optimistic, carry on. Good luck. Have a look at alpeshpatel.com/links if you want to see that interview with Bill and download the whole book. And there's a whole bunch of free trading resources there as well. Thank you.